by Tyre Spot, the Northeast's leading tyre supplier with branches across the region. Tyre Spot don't just do tyres, they cover everything from servicing to wheel alignment. They can handle every aspect of your car's maintenance. For more information, visit tyrespot.co.uk. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Always Smiling Faces podcast on the GallowgateShots YouTube channel. We are live once again on a Monday night, slightly earlier this time, so we'll probably trick loads of people, Mark. Loads of people, nearly an hour earlier if you include with lateness normally on a Monday night.
Well, we're normally here at this time just waiting for them other two. So, like, it's their fault that we have to go on too late.
Why we're always late now. It's to be fair to Decker, it's normally the other guy.
It is, yeah.
Bestie and Decker are not here tonight. Decker struggling with childcare, and Bestie just couldn't be asked. He's gone for a curry.
After last
25 degree heat. Like, who does that? Bestie. Bestie does that.
Just imagine how honking he's going to be today in this weather, eating a curry. It's not going to be a pleasant experience, is it?
Like, somebody commented in afterwards and said Chris's reaction to Bestie's breath was like the fish video all over again. Because it was honking last week, Bestie. But he's not here this week, so we'll not slag him off behind his back. We'll do it to his face next time he's here. But yeah, we are live once again, and we're just going to be talking about life as a Newcastle United fan and everything which has happened, because it's been a bit of a hectic 24 hours, Mark, in the world of transfer rumours. Some bad, some even worse. I don't think that there's been much excitement with some of the names that we have been linked with over the last couple of days. But let's jump into it. We know the deadline for PSR is coming up at the end of this week, Sunday, I believe it is. And as a football fan, I am sick of talking about PSR. And I know we're to blame for it, but we're having to talk about it because, once again, Newcastle United are in a position where we have to look at selling players. The news is that it's Yankuba Minteh that is the newest one who we're looking to offload, as people are saying, which I don't think it's offload, but we're looking at trying to strike a deal to bring in more revenue so we can spend it and keep the likes of Bruno and Isak. I think that's what people are forgetting, the fact that looking at selling a youngster probably sways you away from the likes of Bruno and Isak being sold and bringing in the money in that way, which I completely get, right? I do. But the name that was being linked at coming in the opposite direction was Dominic Calvert-Lewin from Everton, which I'm not sure what your thoughts on it, Mark, but over the years, I've never really been impressed. I think he had that one season where he looked lively. He did. But we've already got an injury-ridden striker in Callum Wilson. His bones are made out of poppadoms, right? The snap so easy and everything. His muscle injuries tear every time he runs up the stairs. Why are we looking at bringing in somebody that has the same injury record? Yes, he's 5 years younger, but you're just bringing in a younger striker with the same issues.
I think
that's goals, less goals.
The circumstances to that, though, you would think, given the team that he plays and in the style of football that they play, will impact his overall stats and his goal scoring and assists and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that the main issue is that we have is you're looking to bring in somebody realistically that's going to be playing second fiddle to Isak. Mm-hmm. You know, Isak is going to be your number one striker at this club, and it's a conversation that we've had probably for the last 2 or 3 seasons of looking and saying we need a striker to come in, but you need a striker that's going to come in and be happy to spend long periods on the bench, looking to come into the team maybe in cup games if there is an injury, because again, we know Isak hasn't had the greatest of minutes on the pitch due to injuries as well. So it kind of narrows your search and your parameters down a little bit, because no top level striker is realistically going to come in and be happy to sit on the bench.
Apart from Hosselu.
Well, he's been made available, hasn't he? Which is quite ironic.
Bring him
but
home.
It's obviously they've went and signed Mbappe, so that kind of makes the striker role at Real, pretty much done and dusted. So again, from his point of view, it's is it worth him sticking around, because he's going to be playing second fiddle there. You would have liked to have thought that Wilson would have been that player that would stick around for a couple of seasons more, just playing as that backup striker, given his issues. But the fact that he's still a good player. But again, as we've sat and said here, that is he going to be happy doing that? He probably wants to play minutes, given the where he is in his career, and had he have probably played more this season, if it not been due to injuries, he's probably had a shout of going to the Euros as well.
And the clubs that Wilson has been linked with are all Saudi clubs at this moment in time. West Ham have flirted, but the majority of the clubs are the clubs from the Saudi league. And to be fair, Callum Wilson's 32 now. He's probably thinking he's probably the chance for the last big payday, really. And Saudi is obviously, he wasn't happy with the likes that Newcastle had apparently rejected a move to Atletico, wasn't it, in the January transfer window? So I think Callum Wilson is probably happy to move on. I agree with that. And I agree with the sentiment that to bring in a second striker, it's always going to be tough. And you're probably looking at some player that does have issues, whether that's injuries or wasn't the best of goal scorers. I'll take one or the other. We're kind of, I know the deal's off for people in the comments, like, we'll know that the deal's off now, right? But for even the idea that Newcastle have shown interest, it's mental to me.
I don't buy the whole he's terrible.
I'm not saying he's terrible.
No,
he's no better than Callum Wilson.
I think
he's worth. I reckon I'll put it out there. Callum Wilson is a better striker. Currently, even now as a 32-year-old striker, he's a better striker than Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
It for me, it depends on what aspects of the game that you look at for the both of them.
Goal scoring.
Goal scoring. If you look at the stats, yes, Wilson's better at the moment. But as I've just said there earlier, you've got to remember the team that he's playing in. Had Callum Wilson been playing in that Everton team, with the lack of chances that are created and stuff like that, I don't think he would have got anywhere as near as many goals as he has.
I saw an interesting article last night, which appeared on Twitter, because obviously that is a cesspit to negativity. But I'm agreeing with this one. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was statistically the worst striker across Europe last season, because the chances that are created, so XG, as everybody says, he was the highest in missed opportunities.
But I also saw those stats, and what I would say is he also had the highest number of saved shots. So it's not that.
Hang on, is that the whole point of a goal?
No, but that then comes from the fact that he's in the right positions, he's hitting the target, but the keeper's making a lot of saves.
So the only way that we can make a correct opinion decision on this is by
have an empty goal, have an empty goal, have no goalkeepers, and then see how many goals to score.
Make the pitch smaller so we get less muscle injuries as well. And we're sorted. Do you know what is evident? They've bumped their head out as well. Like asking 40 million is the asking price.
That
bump their heads.
That's a scandalous amount of money, given the fact that he is, and that would have been the kind of the main thing for me, is how the deal was kind of made up, because he's in the last, well, not yet, he's going into the last season of his contract. So it's the last time that he's got any value there. But to ask 40 million, and albeit he played, I think it was 38 games last season in all competitions. It's not, well, it's a Premier League season, isn't it? That way.
So I'll tell you, I've got stats in front of us. So Dominic played 32 games last year in the Premier League, 38 in all competitions. If we just look at all competitions, he scored 8 goals out of the 38 games that he featured in, 3 assists.
Doesn't say how many of those were starts, though, because playing 38 games, it could have been that he's coming on for the last 10 minutes and stuff like that. It's probably just appearances.
It doesn't say, but if anybody is quick at maths, it says that he played... I can't even work that out. I don't even know, but I think I think he's featuring quite a bit.
3,600 minutes would be 40 games, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they're about quick maths. But I want to look at his injury record, because there's been quite a few comments about his injury record, and what I've tried to do, I've tried to look at and compare it to Callum Wilson. I know Callum Wilson's last couple of seasons have been pretty poor with us, especially this season just gone. So Callum Wilson in the 2023-24 season, so season just gone, he had a total of 5 different injuries. Okay, he missed 28 games. Obviously, you've got to include that. We played the Champions League as well, so it's including that as well. He missed a total of 156 days. If you look at the season before that for Callum Wilson, wasn't as bad. He missed 45 days, 2 separate injuries, and he only missed 9 games. So he wasn't too bad the season beforehand. If we look at Calvert-Lewin, so last season he missed a total of 48 days, which is obviously just a flip out to Callum Wilson's the season before. A total of 3 different injuries and missed 6 games. So it's very similar to the 2022-23 season for Callum Wilson. The season before that is very similar to Callum Wilson's season just gone. So he missed a total of 219 days, 4 separate injuries, and missed 29 games. The season before that, it's 143 days. And then obviously the pattern runs on. Very similar to Callum Wilson. It really is. And just moving away from the Everton striker, we can look at Lloyd Kelly and the deal Lloyd Kelly as well. Injury record has been a concern for him. Are you worried that the club are looking in this direction with the issues that we had last season? Because we had a horrendous season. Yes, and I know a lot of them were bad, like the broken backs and so on and so on. But overall, we had a horrendous season for injuries. Why are we looking at players that have got those issues? Because that's mental.
I think, again, it's probably because of being a victim of PSR, is that you've got to look where the potential value is, because, you know, the likes of these players that were being linked with and obviously signing in Kelly, you probably wouldn't be picking them up if they were, you know, playing regularly and they'd be commanding, you know, much larger fees. Now, I know we've just talked about the money that they were asking for Calvert-Lewin, but
40 million, Everton.
It's
40 million.
I mean, there's a difference between asking for that and what's probably a realistic fee. You would kind of imagine, given that there's I think there's about 5 years difference between Wilson and Calvert-Lewin. Probably, I would have thought, similar money for the pair of them, just because Wilson probably commands, I'd say probably 20-25 is probably a realistic amount given. But again, you know, there's not many teams around that are able to splash that kind of cash at the minute because of PSR. So you're getting the element of youth with Calvert-Lewin on that side of things to give it a bit more value, but it's
using that phrase with a push as well. If you compare it to Callum Wilson,
you think you'd get, you know, 3 to 5 years value out of that. You would expect that would be kind of the amount of contract that he would be signing on in that. But in a world where PSR isn't a thing, then we aren't going after those players. It's not going to even be in the conversation. And I like Lloyd Kelly. I think he's a good player, but that niggling doubt comes because of the issues that he has had with his injuries. Same as Wilson. Everybody thought he would be brilliant.
More, though, because we've brought in a defender who has injury issues, and we've already got 2 injured defenders. Do you think you're thinking, I could have a dodgy start of the season? He could be out for a couple of months.
Well, you would just, I don't know whether or not. I think with his injuries, certainly last season, they weren't the same thing. Like, it wasn't a continuation of like he was getting an hamstring every other kind of injury and stuff like that. It was different types of injuries. And I think that's one of the differences with Calvert-Lewin as well. And again, it might be an age thing, as his injuries weren't similar injuries to Callum Wilson's, where it is more fatigue and muscle injuries and that kind of thing that he's had. Calvert-Lewin, when he missed a big length of the season before, was a bad injury that he picked up. That was probably going to be his big season, because the year before that, under Ancelotti, he had a great season, and that's the one we're looking at.
That's what was that 2000? I remember he featured for England around about 2010, 20-ish thereabouts, wasn't it?
It was, I think it was in the COVID period, if I remember right. And at that time he looked very, very good. He'd had probably a decent couple of seasons into it, and then that's when his injury issues started, and that's where he's just kind of struggled to get back. And I think it's got to turn into a Calvert-Lewin podcast, but I think he offers something completely different to what we've got. And again, as I think that's maybe another reason why we're potentially looking at him, because we don't have, Wilson's all right in the air, but he's not kind of that kind of, a header, strong, hold the ball. I think Calvert-Lewin's got better link-up play than Callum Wilson has. And I think that's one of the things, particularly in those games where strikers looked isolated, the midfield's getting nowhere near him. I think that's where it would make a difference for us having him available as a different option.
Okay. If we step away from him, because like I think we could sit all day and talk about him, but if you look at what was happening in the other direction, where the possibility of Minteh going to Everton, few clubs interested in him, so you can tell that Newcastle are probably open to selling them and pushing. I'm not going to say pushing them out the door.
But I think his agent's pretty much said that, hasn't he?
Yeah, Newcastle are very, very open to offers, and you can see if one of the. It's really hard to describe the situation with him because we don't know how good he is. And yes, he had a great season last season.
That's a very, very good and valid point.
It is. And a lot of people are throwing the toys out the pram at the minute. Of course they are, right? And I get it to a certain degree.
A lot of people that have never seen him play.
Yeah. Well, apart from the highlights and stuff like that. But
even if that's a very accurate representation,
even
isn't
if
it?
you
as we well know.
Seen him play, right? Yes, you've seen him play in a completely different league, so you can say yes, he's done very well in that league and done phenomenally well in that league. Of course, he has.
I wouldn't go that far.
But he has for his first season. He's done really well, which you wouldn't be shocked for Newcastle to then go and loan him out again for the following years just to see how well he does.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I get it. Right? I completely get it, and I'm in agreement with everybody on that one. What I can't understand is then people kicking off saying, "Well, like we're selling him for what's rumored to be 40 million. We won't get 40 million from him. No chance. 25, similar to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You probably get about 20, 25, right? We'll bought him in for 6.5 mil. Right?
Do you even think that's a realistic amount?
I don't. But I don't think Newcastle selling for any less because of, once again, PSR and how much we're going to gain from that. I think Newcastle have a low bar when it comes to that 40 million is ridiculous. Not getting that, right? It'll be a lot lower than that. We don't know how he is as a Premier League footballer. Like, we don't know. He might be absolutely shocking. Like, we've seen it before where players have done really well in different leagues. We've seen it where they come over here and they've stunk the place out. Having said that, he might be fantastic. He might come here and have an absolute blinder. The issue that he has being a Newcastle United player now is how much game time would he realistically be getting, right? He's not going to be in the starting 11. He's not going to do it.
Well, you're going to start our current right winger hatred.
Well,
fans of
the reason why I say that is because Eddie Howe has his favourites, and we know he has his favourites, right? Jacob Murphy's his favourite, right? You know Jacob Murphy's going to feature on that right-hand side. Now I've got no problem with that because I like Jacob Murphy. Yes,
or Miggy.
Yes, or Miggy. But I think Jacob Murphy's probably the one to push out that position at this moment in time, because he did feature a lot more than what Miggy did towards the end of the season. Unless you mess about with the formations, you shift Gordon over the right-hand side and Barnes on the left, which I'm open to as well. Going back to Minteh, I get it. I get why the club are looking at him. Like we said at the very start, Mark, is that if he's the only option other than Bruno or Isaac, then you snatch the hands off and you say, so long, mate, thanks very much, but your time isn't right now for us. That's just where we are in this journey, in this path to becoming a successful team.
And it's pure profit as well. As you say, we've
6.5
paid less than £7 million for him. And if we sell him for even 25 million, then straight away you're making, £80 million there, times that across the length of any of the contracts and stuff like that. It suddenly becomes, 60, 80 million.
It seems like a no-brainer from where we are right now. And I can't get me niggas in the twist over it. I can't. I know we've sat here before and said, we need to look at the future. We need to bring that talent, right? That was different. It was different beforehand. Like, it really was. The situation where Newcastle, the richest club in the world, as we keep on getting told, are right now, We can't spend the money unless we sell players. And I don't want to lose Bruno and definitely don't want to lose Isak. And we've sat here so many times and said that. So what's the alternative?
And it's a ridiculous situation to be in. That the owners of the football club cannot spend their own money. And I get that they don't want to be in a situation where clubs are going bust left, right, and centre. It's about protecting, clubs in there. But that isn't going to happen. That's not going to happen to Newcastle. And the sooner that these rules around PSR and bloody all of the whole money situation around the rules and stuff like that are looked at, the better, because it's not fit for purpose at the minute. It's ridiculous.
It absolutely stinks. Like, it doesn't. And the fact that the clubs voted not long ago, and what was it? It was 16 of them that voted for it and keep it. And like, you think, what? Like, sorry, 16 of the way.
And surprisingly, the clubs that didn't vote for it are those that have got a huge commercial revenue already coming in, and it doesn't impact them as much as it does the other clubs.
Then somebody like Palace voted for it as well. We know why Palace did it, though, because that gives them an excuse not to spend money. That's a cynic, and I sort of thinking of that way. But honestly, I get it, and yes, if it was the other way around, if it was Isak, where we know he is a Premier League striker, we know that he's proven that, then yes, I'm out there with everybody else with me pitchforks,
and that's it. Like, if that's the reality of the situation is, due to the stupid rules that are in place, if we want to keep Bruno and Isak, then we have to balance the books some other way.
Talking about Everton being dropped on the head, I think that Minteh might need a brain scan as well, because the clubs that have shown an interest in him, just to go through them, there was Roma, Marseille, Brighton, Borussia Dortmund, okay, all linked with him in the last week. He chose Everton. He's agreed personal terms with Everton, apparently.
So the only reason I look at that is, if you look at all of those clubs, is he more likely to get minutes at Everton as opposed to the likes of Dortmund and the other clubs?
I'm going to Dortmund.
from a development point of view, then that would be the probably the right option when you think of the fact that Champions League club, he's got an opportunity to go there. I'm not saying he's going to be playing in the Champions League, but he was in Holland. Sorry, the Netherlands. Get wrong for saying that these days. So from that point of view, you can understand why, but purely if you're just wanting to play football and have first team experience, he's probably more likely to get it at a struggling Everton team.
Who finished the season well, to be fair to Everton as well. But I think if we look at the other hand, you might have a point to prove. You might say, "Oh no, I think I'm confident I can perform well in the Premier League, so I'm sticking to the Premier League."
There's that as well. I think he wants to play in the Premier League. Obviously, that was one of the main reasons for joining us. It would be interesting to see whether or not he would pick up a work permit, because obviously that was the main issue that we had of not being able to bring him in, was because he couldn't get a work permit.
To Feyenoord. I think I was in the same day. I think with Bolton, it got announced straight away that it was loaned back.
And even saying then here's another link of everybody's up in was talking about Garang Kual not long ago, and why is he not playing games? He's not going. We saw him a couple of weeks ago in a friendly. He was nowhere near the level that we needed in there. So, and I'm not saying that they're of similar levels, but they were both playing over in the Netherlands, albeit one, in the last season, Cole took a bit of a step down and then still wasn't getting a game. But I think that was more due to the coach changing at the club that he was at. It was a second division club, wasn't it? Yeah. So I don't know. I think in another situation where we're not just having to sell to get PSR right and to have a positive figure or a less negative figure, because it could even be that we're still not breaking even or making a profit, that he doesn't get sold, and he is one that we keep for the future to do. But
if he doesn't get sold, right, and you've just said it, if we do, we might not even hit that where we need to be right now. If he doesn't get sold, then we're even worse off. Which means what? You then look at selling your players that are coming towards the end of the contracts at Newcastle United, and players, your fringe players, which we've been trying to do for seasons now. We can't do it. We physically can't do it. Nobody wants to buy them.
And I think that's one of the reasons why he's being talked about, because he's a saleable asset. At the minute. It's because people are interested in signing him because he's young, he's got potential. Ideally, you'd want to get rid of Hendrick, Isaac Hayden, those players that are currently, I think, is Hendrick being released? He might
nobody even knows anymore.
Obviously, Ryan Fraser's now gone, so he's off the books. But it's those fringe players that aren't going to get in the team that you want to sell and get off the books. I like Isaac Hayden, but so it hurts us to say that. But he's not going to get anywhere near the first team. Yeah. So you have to then look at where are the other options for us to bring money in, and that's then looking at your saleable assets. That's why the likes of Miggy were being touted for a move in January. Why Wilson's being talked about now, because it's probably where those first team players that there is a bit of interest in that are maybe just on the fringes, or you could potentially look to upgrade.
There's a couple of comments came in. Hendrick is gone, and it's Fraser who has another year left. Was rumours of Fraser going to Southampton? Yeah. So Southampton.
I thought it was either way.
Do you know what is? I do get people's anger and frustrations to a certain degree because he hasn't had a chance, right? He hasn't had a chance at Newcastle, but we're just not in that position and that luxury of being that established team that has that money coming in elsewhere to give him that chance. And yes, if Miggy was sold, then yes, we might look at keeping him. We might. But that's up to him as well. That's up down to Miggy as well. Like Miggy could, like just like he did last season, where those interests from Saudi once again last season. He's like, nah, I'm happy to stay here.
Yeah,
like you can't physically force them out the door.
No. And
see, when Minteh could turn around and say, nah, I'm not going.
And you could get into a situation where, let's say we did keep him, he comes over here, gets a couple of games, whatever, and he's crap. His value plummets. So it's at the point where it is a risk, because he could potentially be, the next good thing and worth, down the line millions. And that's where, obviously there's talk about buyback clauses and stuff like that being included, which is, protecting
we're messed
that
up
side
with
of
that
things.
Because just to bring it back how that was previously, we're messed up with
Ivan Toney. Well, we had a small sell-on clause, didn't we?
We had a sell-on. I don't think we had a buyback.
But it's not a huge. I don't think it's a huge amount there. But again, you would think that a lot of these younger players that we're bringing through, that if we get to a point where we do have to, let them go, hopefully it's because they are, do become a very good player and want to go on. You look at Harrison that we've signed from Man City. If he can come here and live up to the potential that he's got and get an opportunity, then it's worked in the right way. But again, he might need to go out on loan and go and play for a couple of teams. If he does well there, that might get the interest going. So again, it happens. It's a juggling act.
You look at Man City. Man City selling Cole Palmer.
That was the one that sprung to my mind, and I think knowing what you know now about Cole Palmer, you say, well,
idiots.
They shouldn't have let him go. But is he going to get in the team ahead of Haaland? No. Is he going to get in the team ahead of? Because they've got probably 3 established strikers that are there ahead of him. It's taken a risk on him being a young striker. Yes, he's gone to Chelsea and he's hit the ground running, but again, Chelsea took a risk realistically in signing him for the money that they did without that proven experience.
Yeah,
it's just worked out well.
Yeah, it's a risk, and that's a risk that the club are willing to take right now. But I don't think they have much of an option. I think the hands are slightly forced by, once again, PSR. We're going to keep on talking about it all fucking night. Like, honestly, has this always been a thing?
No.
Like, because
it's never been a thing.
Money now.
It's never been a thing.
Like, I reckon over the last 6 months, I've said those 3 words More than any other word in my life.
Well, what was it
Yeah,
before?
financial fair play.
Financial fair play was the thing, and then
yeah. Like, what next?
It'll just be another rule to stop you spending money.
I just honestly, I don't. It's obviously been around for a long, long time. It has been around,
but it hasn't. It's only came around because of because of financial fair play, the limit in the amount that the fact that you can only register a loss of, I think it's 100 million over a three season
no idea much
time. So it's but you understand why they're doing it. They're trying to protect the clubs from dodgy owners, people that come in, chuck a shed load of money at buying players in, so they don't want to be in a situation. And I know you've got to go back a long time for this. The likes of Leeds, the likes of Pompey, that did that, chucked a load of money. QPR did it in, obviously, the
shitloads.
Yeah,
so Samba that they brought in. Samba they brought in.
From Blackburn when he went over to Russia, didn't he? And then came back. But yeah, they were chucking money left, right, and centre. Obviously, Barton went down there as well. They still ended up getting relegated. So, still painful, that one. But then you look at some of the clubs around Bolton have been through it. Bury knows obviously the situation that they've had, but with the owners that we have, they're not going to let that situation happen. You look at the top level, Everton have obviously been in a situation where with the owners and not being able to keep up with things, so they've had to be bailed out. They've obviously succumbed to the two docking of points that would go. You kind of look at the situation and go, is it worth the risk?
What, as in?
Of just, we know what the punishment is now. When you look at Forest, you look at Everton.
Mark, we know what the punishment was for everybody else.
Yeah, but that's
we don't know what the
precedent's been set.
Yeah, but we don't know what the punishment for Newcastle United would be.
But that's where there's then that argument. If you know the precedent's been set around these are what, you know, let's call them
guidelines.
Well, we know what the figures are that you can be over. We know what those clubs have done and what they've been docked and fined, etc. As a result of that, Everton's obviously been done twice. So again, there's a variance between those two teams because Forest was said
Everton was the other way around, so they got done, got points given back, and got
done again. Yeah, but that was because it was two separate things. Forest, even though their situation was worse, got less of a punishment than Everton did, but that's because they were shown to kind of go along and cooperate with the situation. So if we were to cooperate, then hypothetically, we should get a similar punishment of Forest.
But fine, we would be used as not an example, but for fine.
Well, Nick DeMarco would be having a field day with that, wouldn't he? Because, as I say, the precedent has been set in the fines and the docking of points that have already happened. The big unknown at this point, and it's, you know, the elephant in the room for every single club is Man City. We know they're fighting it tooth and nail. God knows what's going to happen there.
Or when.
You know, but they're then challenging the fact that why should these regulations be in place when, you know, they're never going to let that club go bust or do it. I know some of the things that they've done is very unscrupulous to get around it, and I think that's why they'll ultimately they'll come unstuck, because they have misled allegedly. Just in case any of Man City solicitors are watching, but I don't know. It just takes the whole excitement out of being a fan, of being able to smash transfer records and you know, go on and improve things, and I get why they're doing it, but the figures that they're talking about just don't work. It doesn't work in the modern game where transfer, you know, figures are so high, wages are so high. So unless there's a dramatic, and I think it could even go this way if the rules don't change, is that you'll start seeing transfer fees impacted. You'll start to see players' wages being impacted because clubs can't afford to be paying the fees, can't be affording to pay the contract
which damages
and stuff like
your
that.
own product at
And
the end of the day.
100% it does.
It damages the Premier League, and so really at the end of the day, they could just be cut the nose off to spite the face.
And you see that was one of the big arguments that obviously the Barcelona and Real were having around of wanting to start the Super League, because all of the money in football, not all the money, but the majority of it is within England.
Yeah.
It's within the Premier League. It generates the most. That's why we can, attract players from all around the world that want to come and play here. But they still keep that elite status as Barcelona and Real because of their history and there. So maybe the league isn't as glamorous and isn't as prestigious as what the Premier League is, which is why they want
they got the badge on the shirt.
Do that. Yeah. So
yeah.
But their commercial revenue is what allows them to go and sign Mbappe.
Would you be worried though, right? If we just go back to bringing players in, would you not necessarily worried, but in fact, no, I'm going to use that word. Would you be worried and quite let down and deflated if the signings that we were brought in, let's say there's 3 signings which we're bringing, okay? Lloyd Kelly, Calvert-Lewin, and Trafford as your goalkeeper. It's a bit underwhelming, isn't it?
Considering what you would be hoping to attract and the players that we've been linked with in recent weeks, regardless of how true or not they are, then yeah, I guess it is disappointing that if they were the only signings that you make, because I think the way that we looked at it is your Tosin and your Lloyd Kelly were a couple of signings that made business sense because you weren't paying a fee for them,
free transfers,
which would then allow us to go and spend big money elsewhere within the team. And we covered it a couple of weeks ago now, but obviously with Tosin joining Chelsea, that's had to realign the thinking there, because we now have to spend money at the centre half position, which we hope not to have done.
And I think personally, just speaking for myself, obviously when we were linked with the goalkeeper, the first goalkeeper that we were really linked with was obviously he had Ramsdale. His name never really disappeared, but he had Ashworth, who's currently playing in the Euros
for Georgia.
And do you know what it is? He's a fantastic goalkeeper. And from what I've seen from him, he looks amazing. Like, he does all the right things. Unlucky for him, he's only goals he's conceded are absolute screamers. The poor son just attracts screamers. And so you look at him and you think, yes, it's the exotic name as we're saying, and he's a flash goalkeeper really, but looks very, very solid at what he does. Then you drop off to Trafford, and I'm thinking, is this really where
it's
we're
harsh
going?
To say a drop off,
but it is a drop off. It's a drop off. It is.
You're going from an established top level keeper to somebody with potential
who's absolutely been swallowing clean sheets for breakfast, man.
In a Burnley team.
No, other way. Ashworth.
Oh, right, aye.
He hasn't kept clean sheets at Burnley. Not a chance. But that's what I mean. That it drops off, and yes, I get it. It probably comes back down to pissing money again.
It does.
Because
if it's not for PSR, we'll go and sign him.
I don't like it, Mark.
Nobody likes it. Nobody likes it except UEFA and the Premier League.
I don't like it. It's ruining this takeover experience for me.
It's ruining football. It is absolutely ruining football.
We knew we couldn't spend all this money, right? We knew it from day one. I didn't realize it was going to be this tough.
No, but just be realistic with the figures. 100. God, I can't believe I'm going to say these words. £100 million over 3 years is nothing. It's a lot of money. Let's just make that clear. It's a lot of money to the average person.
We don't have that many.
But in footballing terms, it's not. So it needs looking at. It needs to be something needs to happen there. And I know that they're trying to do it to make it more fair across the whole of all of the UEFA competing countries and stuff like that, because obviously the money in some of the continental areas for Eastern European stuff are nowhere near it. Even the likes of France don't generate anywhere near the levels.
Even less.
So it's to try and exactly. So it's to try and keep an even keel there, but football isn't about keeping an even keel. There's always been teams that are bigger and better than others. There's always been teams that have got money that can strengthen. There's teams that have had to invest in youth and bring them through, sell them on. That's football. Football isn't about everybody having the same amount of money to be able to spend in it going around equally.
Should be, though. I just want to spend some money, Mark. That's all. I just want to bring in a marquee signing. I want to bring somebody that's going to be in the starting 11, and I'm going to be excited about. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people be the same and think, oh, well, yes, we had it last season. We had it with Isak, right? And I know, sorry, the season before that with Isak, and I know that we're nowhere near closing of the transfer. You know, we're far from it, right? I don't think we're going to bring that in.
I've still got hope.
Do you actually?
Hope.
I'm normally quite optimistic with stuff like this.
I think so.
But do you think I'm being a bit of a defeatist with this one? Pessimistic.
I think we'll still do something.
Where? Like in what position do you think that our marquee signing is going to come from? It's not going to be goalkeeper.
Nah, I mean it could be, but I think it's probably really that right side of midfield. That's the one place where I think would get everybody kind of really weird noise. Would get everybody like properly excited for the season if we did something down there, which is a shame for.
And there's been a couple of comments. Jules is one and saying someone called Tonali to come back yet. I get it, right? I get it, and I'm excited to see Tonali. He's not a new signing though,
and that's why I don't think it'll be midfield, because I think we talked about this last week. But your midfields, you know, given the players that we've got there, things don't change. You would probably expect it to be Bruno, Joe Linton, and Tonali in there.
Yeah.
And then we know you've got your backup, and that's where we were talking about, you know, potentially your likes of Miley Anderson aren't going to get anywhere near that. Longstaff's in there, Joe Willock's in there was the other one that we were talking around as well. So I don't necessarily see we're doing anything in midfield. Left wing, we've got Gordon there, Bonds as well, obviously.
It's that right hand side. You're right. What you're saying. It's that right hand side.
Striker, we're not going to bring in.
It's not going to be your marquee striker. No.
Another striker. Isak is going to be your main man next season.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we're looking at that backup option. If Wilson stays, I think we'll still probably do something, but I think it has to. And again, it comes back. God, how many years?
That word again?
How many years have we had this conversation? But it's, you know, a third choice keeper, so it's somebody that's either cracking on in age and is happy to come and just take one for the team and hang around the place, or a young striker that wants to.
Because Mark Gillespie's got that fourth place nailed down. Like, he doesn't even go any higher. Just, I'm happy with fourth.
That's it. I mean, if Dubravka's still wanting to go, that's a name that we haven't heard much about.
I think Dubravka will be the first one out. I think,
and he'll command money because he's had a decent Euros. You would have thought. Again, where is he going to turn up? You know, is there enough money for him to stay here or go to somebody in Europe?
I don't think he'll bring in a huge fee. I think we'll possibly what we're paid, like, which is decent.
Did we not get? I think we didn't.
I think we only paid 10 or something.
A huge amount for him,
yeah. But I don't think we'll get much more than that.
Oh, I think you get 15 million.
I don't know.
So realistically, you're then looking at bringing in two other keepers.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm thinking we have to spend money somewhere.
There's a question came in. I'll jump straight to it, and it's from Stephen Kennedy, who isn't a member, but I'm going to read your question because I quite like it. Become a member, mate. $2.99 a month. He says,
better at least subscribe and like the comment.
He says, if we don't show ambition this summer, Isak and Bruno will push to leave next season. Which I get. I think a lot of that comes down to not just showing ambition, but league position when it comes to the end of the season. Yeah. I think that's a huge point, not just ambition, because we're just going to go back around in circles and discuss what we've already discussed. But showing ambition, we've got to be able to do that. Like, we've got to have, yes, we've got the money at our disposal, but we can't spend it. So it's very hard to show ambition when you've got so many hurdles in front of you. So I kind of discredit that one a little bit. But I get what he's saying. If you're not improving the team in certain areas, which were the players which were brought in so far, and Lloyd Kelly and possibly. We're saying Calvert-Lewin once again, but we know that's not happening. But Trafford, you're improving your squad. You're not improving your starting 11.
No, and that's why I think we will still see more signings coming in. Yeah. We need another central defender, without doubt, for all of the reasons that we've already discussed. We've got currently 3 now, because obviously Kelly signed 3 fit centre halves. You can't go into a season with 3 players to play across those 2. Burns had injuries last season. Cher's always got an injury and a grazed knee up his sleeve, so
he's stigma. He's
gonna.
I've not seen any stigma, and he's in the European tournaments.
Well, the first game he got a 1, didn't he? So yeah, you'd expect we're to get another central defender through the door.
Doing that noise again.
Your ADHD's kicking in.
You're getting anxious about signings. That's what it is. Same as me. I've managed to get you on my side. I'll go through a couple of comments. If anybody does have any questions, send them our way. We'll go for another 10-15 minutes. I just want to say thanks to Aaron who sent in a £1.99 donation earlier on. So thanks, mate. Said he's gonna catch up later on. It's his pocket. Yeah, he's going to catch up later on. The first question is from Jules. Evening, Jules. She says, thoughts on Ratcliffe whining in the press again about Dan Ashworth and how difficult he believes Newcastle have been to deal with. He can fuck right off for all I care, because he is a whining bitch.
He's also a massive liar.
Yes,
he's an absolute massive liar. For him to sit there, and I don't understand how the female reporter kept it straight face when he said the words, "I have never came across gardening leave in my entire business career." Absolute lies. It's a standard business practice. It was quite funny that there was actually former employees of Ineos came out and said, "Well, I was put on gardening leave." So, I don't know. Newcastle are being difficult to deal with. We're not. We can be very easy to deal with. Just pay the money. The difference is you don't want to pay how much we want for him.
And the longer this has gone out, the more that Manchester United and Dan Ashworth have been put in a bad light, because the way they handled the situation, we know it wasn't great to start with, but Dan Ashworth hasn't handled this well. And you know what it is? We were really excited when we got Dan and thought, great, this path which we're on, he's ideal for it. But what a fucking snake!
Yeah, but it's not just him. He even came out and said Man City and Newcastle, obviously because they're trying to take both, two guys from both clubs to bring in, and that we're both being difficult. It's not about us being difficult. It's you not abiding by the rules and doing what you should be doing. So moan as much as you like within the press, but you can't just come in here and start trying to bully your way through the rest of the clubs, because it doesn't work. If you want to do it, go about it the right way, which you already haven't done. And because that hasn't worked, he's thrown his toys out the pram. We've told you what it'll cost you to get him, so pay it. Or stop your moaning and wait for his gardening leave to end.
Do you think he's kind of pissing his pants at the minute now, though? Because he's pretty thought this is all going to get done and dusted quite early on. And obviously it's gone on for a lot of months. I can't even... When was it first? Rumor was ages ago.
Oh, it's months and months
like
now.
Christmas?
It was, yeah.
But he's probably thinking,
it was like February, something like that.
It must be quite on, because it was cold. It was cold at that time. Which it's
June then.
June, last week.
It only started getting warm on Friday.
but pay the money and it's done. You can have him. You can have him tomorrow. Pay the money. He's yours tomorrow.
And that's the stupid thing, is because he then went and said, "Oh, Southampton have been wonderful about it," and stuff like that. But that's because you met their valuation of what they wanted to do. You came to an agreement and you paid it. That's all you've got to do.
Yeah. It's you know what is that? It had gone quiet, hadn't it? It had gone quiet up until that interview, which came out the other day, and I just don't get it.
But that's the second one he's done in as many weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, he even said it himself, as he doesn't understand football business, which is a bit of worry. Since he owns a bloody club in France as well,
which is another thing.
Well, that was the other thing that came out of that he was kicking off because he couldn't he wasn't allowed to sell a player from
back and forwards
from the team that he owns in France to the team that he owns here.
Yeah, and we had to prove that Alan St. Maximin was worth what 12 mils, whatever we got for him in the end. Like it's crazy, and like you said, I think he has came in and tried to just bully his way through situations and throw his weight about a bit, and he has hit a brick wall when he's came up. And do you know what it is? I wouldn't want to deal with Amanda Stabley either. If in fact, I bet you she's lovely to deal with. I bet you she is. She's very lovely to deal with, but piss her off. You know for fine well she's not giving in.
Well, that's it. And that's the situation that they've now got themselves in, because they've gone around to where they've wanted to be completely the wrong way. They've gone behind the back. They've gone direct to him, tapped them up. Obviously, as we know, he's been passing information left, right, and centre back to them and dealing with them. So we're going to play hardball. And if we don't get what we want out of it, then he's not going anywhere. He can sit and rot. And that's exactly what's happening. So if you want to speed up the process, then you need to come back to the table and negotiate.
The issue which we have now is that we need to get a bum on a seat as well. So it's slowing our progression down as well in the same breath, which is once again, which is probably why we're looking at buying injured players.
I don't know, because, well, let's face it.
Eddie Howe wants to buy injured players.
Dan Ashworth wasn't the man that was scouting and pulling together that transfer list, was he?
But Eddie Howe wants to buy injured players.
Like, I'm not sure that's Eddie Howe.
Get Eddie Howe away from the transfers, man. Like, he can deal with the players when they arrive, but stop buying injured ones, man. Stop showing interest in them. Do you think, just going back and just to wrap things up, do you think that's done and dusted with the links with Minteh going to Everton and Calvert-Lewin coming to Newcastle? Do you think that's gone, or do you think it's something which might get highlighted up later in the window?
I think the fact that we're not even at the end of June yet, we've still got effectively let's say 2 months till the transfer window closes. It's not as long as that, but there's a hell of a lot of twists and turns before then. Obviously, once we get the 1st of July, it then becomes the new season, new finances and stuff like that. So I think there's obviously been talk of a financially beneficial deal between those two clubs and
a loophole.
So I don't know, but unusual that it would be Everton that were keen to do that, considering when I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just the fans that don't get on.
What I did want to mention as well, I completely forgot about this. We mentioned it last week that Anthony Gordon didn't get any minutes in England's first opening game. It's the same thing. England's opening game in the Euros. Didn't feature the second time out, Morgan, either.
He didn't. No. God and Jesus, that was even worse than the first game, wasn't it? The second game was absolutely abysmal. Well, the rumours are yet again that he's going to go with the same team, but with the exception of Conor Gallagher coming in for Trent, isn't it? Which I think will help. It's probably not the change that I would have wanted to see, and probably the majority of England fans would have wanted to see. And
do you think it's weird that the England players, and there's numerous of them, that came out and done interviews, kind of not slagging the fans off because we weren't doing that, but kind of saying like, we don't understand where this criticism is coming from, and we need the supporters to back us and Southgate, which I get. Like, as football supporters, we would do that, and you can see it, match day, those 90 minutes of football, you get that, you get it from start to finish. That doesn't stop fans coming out and say, actually, it could be a bit different.
You know, as I think this year, the press have probably been less opinionated than they've ever been around any Euros and World Cups that we've ever had. If you think of some of the years gone by, the way the press has gone on about the manager and the teams and the selection, and I think he's getting off fairly lightly. And ever since Southgate's gone in there, I think he's always been kind of handed a bit of an easy ride by the press. I think this is the first time he's really came in for any sort of significant kind of pressure and around his team selection and how they're performing. And even then, it hasn't been a huge reaction.
It's not been as toxic as what was.
No.
Because there's been some rotten stuff we've seen over the years.
Absolutely.
Like rotten.
Yeah.
Like,
so
the Beckham thing screams to mind. But it'll come. That'll come. Unless we'll win the tournament, which I don't think we will. But that sort of outburst and outcry will come. I think once we leave the tournament, once we get kicked out.
But
which isn't nice.
Like everybody is saying the same thing, and I'm not necessarily saying start Gordon. You've got Eze, who would do just a good a job on the left hand side.
Well,
I think the different players.
He came on
and I think
the other day and he didn't look great.
Yeah,
Looked lost, but everybody was lost in that game.
That was terrible. I think, realistically speaking, Eze is probably more suited to the way that Southgate would set up and approach the game. I think if you brought Gordon in, it would bring more out of Trippier, because he's got him sitting in front of him. You know, Trippier's going to stay. Gordon's going to stay out on wide and keep that width there. He's going to be an outlet that we don't have.
Be pushing forward on the wing.
So, yeah. And again, just play to the strengths of the team. Get Trent out, drop Bellingham into that position, move Foden into the middle, and bring Gordon or Eze on the left. So
there's a great comment from Callum Lewis, and thanks, Callum, for bringing this up, because Shearer's interview after the game, where he was the commentator, wasn't he, for the last game, and he held no punches.
Been for most of
no punches afterwards. He came out and he said, was not necessarily. He was criticising Harry Kane, saying that I just can't figure out. I know why he's coming back, but he can't come back. He needs to stay there. And he's saying that Anthony Gordon started would stop that, because Kane's coming hunting for the ball and he's finding himself everywhere on the field. Whereas if Gordon's on the field, you know for fine well we're hitting on the counter attack every single time. We're not even on the counter attack. We're just going forward at every single opportunity.
And we've seen it at Newcastle when we've played, and that gap between the striker and the midfield is huge, because we've got two that are sitting, and then there's, you know, you're keeping Bellingham in the middle there, but he's then having to drop back in and get into your midfield alongside Rice and Trent. That then makes a huge gap between Kane. So Kane has to drop back in and fill it.
And then when you do get the ball,
there's nobody up.
Pass it up the top.
But again, Saka's really the only one that's kind of getting forward on wide. And, you know, the first game, he had a fantastic first half.
But let's say argument's sake, right? Let's say Kane's playing, Gordon's on the left-hand side, right? Let's say Kane does go on his little wander where he finds himself in the middle of the field, right? Gordon's then the outlet.
Yeah.
Because he's got the
pace.
And
we know that if your striker drops in, if Gordon's out there on the left, he'll drop and come across into the middle and go through. When Foden, I think he's probably his best spell in this Euros is where he's picking up the ball and he was drifting inside. He was in the number 10 role, and that's where he was influencing things. But then that left a huge gap on the left-hand side. Trippier was getting overloaded by two players, and there was nothing down there. So
it's a shame. Do you know what it is? It's such a shame that we're still in this position where, yes, we've got a talented set of individuals, and each player is very, very talented. And we'll have the manager that just thinks he's picking the best players and putting them anywhere. Whereas, no, you pick the best player suited for that role. Hence why Foden's getting hired out on the left-hand side. And Bellingham's, yes, he's playing in a role that he's suited to, but you can shuffle it slightly. And you've got Trent playing in midfield. Well, even mention that.
When it comes with the fact that he then came out and said, we haven't been able to replace Calvin Phillips in the team. So don't replace him.
That's stupid.
Don't replace him.
Stupid comment.
Change your formation. Change your formation to the players you have available. And it's very simply and easily done. He just won't do it.
Yeah. So we're both saying Gordon's not going to feature tomorrow night. Tuesday night for those watching.
Sadly not. I don't think so.
It's such a shame for a player that's had such a fantastic season as well. Like second to none in that position on the left-hand side. Second to none. And he's fought to get into the revised squad. He's fought his way into that. Had a couple of appearances in the friendlies and the warm-up games going into the Euros. As soon as the Euros comes, not a second on that field. And Cole Palmer as well. He's another one. Yeah,
he'll bring Jared Bowen on and play on the right-hand side.
Twice.
Like for like. And again, I don't know whether it's because he knows him, he's had him in the squads before. You put him and bring him in there, but he needs to do something different. And I think this is the problem. He probably looks at it as a bit of a risk because it's an unproven player, but how many times have we seen unproven players go into teams and make a hell of a difference? Even you go back and you look at when Michael Owen came through, chucked him in there.
You can argue
did.
Unproven on an international
Rooney
stage.
Was the same.
You can say that. But Premier League level, which is apparently the best in the league, tearing it up.
Yeah.
And when you had Foden, who had a pretty disappointing end to the season, so his form was dropping, and you had Gordon, yes, he picked up the injury at the end of the season, but throughout the season, from day one to the end of it, he's been, I was going to say steady, he's been better than steady. He's been fantastic.
Unbelievable, yeah.
I don't get it.
But no, let's experiment and play a fullback in the middle of the park instead.
See what happens. See what happens. They've said some stupid lines last week, really, haven't they? Like with the likes of, so I think it was Declan Rice that came out and said England fans were crying out for Trent to be in midfield.
No, they weren't.
Well, there might be a few.
I've never once heard any England fan crying out for him to be in midfield.
Nah, nobody asked for Foden to be on the left hand side.
What was mentioned previously wasn't playing on the right wing, but that was more as a wing back, not playing in the centre as a holding midfield or creativity.
He's not. I like Trent as well. He's not that though.
He can pick a pass, but positionally, tactically, he's not a central midfielder.
Yeah. Oh well. Anything else you want to add before we say bye to everybody?
We're still gonna win the Euros.
You've been dropped on your feed as well. Thanks everybody who has been watching live. There's almost 1,000 of you, so thanks very much. It means a lot to us.
Drop a like.
Yeah, just like the video. Become a subscriber. It costs you nothing to do that. If you do want to give an extra bit back, it is just $2.99 a month to become a member. You get extra things with that. You get access to the Telegram group, and plenty more things as the season will start, because we're going to be doing a lot more audio podcasts throughout the build up to the next season. So yeah. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Say bye, Mark.
Bye, Mark.
Ta-ra.